Today, it's your favorite broadcast team, Heavy Joel Sondiri.
I would say that for last names, you could do Dirterder. Dirterders.
Oh, so we could be like Durarara.
Dirterders.
Or just Sondiri Deary.
Yeah, that's good too.
Deary.
Yeah. I just like that we all have a DER in our name. That's good.
Oh, that's true.
Yeah. AKA King DD.
Yeah.
Just, I can't think of the last time or any time I've heard anyone try to combine three names together. Usually it's just two people. So, congrats.
There's no good like thruple portmanteaus.
I don't like that word at all.
Thruple?
Yeah, please stop
I
saying
love
it.
that word so much.
Awful word.
Yeah.
What a terrible thing to say.
Quapple.
That's not better.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to ChillPoint, the show where we talk about the week's video game news, as well as talk about things that were in the episode of Checkpoint that went up yesterday, and anything else that happens to come to mind.
We're really good at that last one.
Yeah. Let's get into.
Okay, first of all, Rock Pusher, you're allowed to type it. Seeing it written out does not bother me. Beach is not allowed to say it.
Would thruple be better?
No more words from you.
Just none.
It's like in Shovel Knight, the tropple fish, the trapple fish.
I don't remember this.
It's a combination of a trout and an apple.
Oh, I do remember this.
Trapple.
Yeah. Okay.
Stuff that maybe works better written down and less.
Well, there's
said
no
out loud.
voices in the game,
Right. Fair enough.
Anyway, let's talk about some of the stories that made it into the episode Checkpoint. Now, we had a couple stories about the Wii U / 3DS network shutdown.
Yeah.
And so when I put up the stories doc, Bij was like, I just want to do all network shutdown stories.
Yeah, that's all.
I just want to talk about shutting it down.
Well, because the intention, like, I'm like, it's getting shut down. I'm like, I don't want to do just straight downer. I'm like, it's like, oh, this is over, right? It's like,
Yeah.
no, I want to. There's a couple neat pieces of fallout from this that I think are interesting. Like, we talked a lot about the Super Mario Maker Team Zero thing that was going on. I'm like, that is people using a built-in deadline for something you could look at as being negative, and being like, we're going to make a positive out of it. Mm-hmm. So it's like, okay, I want to focus on a bit more of that, of how people use these restrictions as a challenge.
So the first story is talking about Pretendo, which is not a new thing.
No.
But a thing that obviously has renewed prominence now that the official network is.
I mean, they were waiting for the network to go down so that code wouldn't get updated. Right?
And they have
that's usually
the
problem.
And they have said specifically that yes, the Wii can be used on this because it is a Nintendo Network replacement. So the Wii can be used on this. You can use a 3DS on it. You can use a Wii U on it. And no, they will not be supporting the Switch.
Mm.
I mean, that would be a bad idea now.
And they literally say, because it is paid. And I'm like, right, NSO and it's not Nintendo Network anymore. It's a different login service and everything else. So.
Although, I can imagine whatever 5 or 10 years down the line when the Switch's network gets shut down.
Yeah.
Maybe there'll be something
but
else.
Right now,
I'm of a mind to think that that whatever anyone's going to work on for the Nintendo, not NSO. NSO is a service that they offer that ties into whatever the Nintendo. What is not Nintendo? It's called something else on my phone. It's not Nintendo Network. It's called something else. But whatever that service is, I'm like, the next Switch, the next piece of hardware that's going to come out, almost 100% is going to support that entire network setup. Like it's not going to be like we're trashing everything again and starting a new thing, right? I think they've learned their lesson, right? They rolled the first one. They're like, this didn't work out the way that it should have. So they're like, we've made a new version, and now this is the one we're going to support. And then maybe that lasts for 2 consoles, and then maybe on the third one they're like, we got to redo it again. You know, like
I was going to say that's very optimistic of you.
Well, I mean, what Beach is referring to is Nintendo's first, because like the Wii, you got Nintendo Network ID, and then several years ago they were like, you have to get the new thing because there was like a problem with that system. I think in overall,
there was like
and
some
then
security issues.
They wanted to move people over anyway. But that's what worked on the Wii, and it did work on the Wii U and the 3DS.
Now, so Pretendo is a fan-made or fan-maintained network that is under active development, and there's on their webpage there's like a big list of like stuff that works and stuff that doesn't work and stuff that's partial working and that kind of stuff. Now, I wasn't quite sure from the story is. Because the part of the thing is they've got this new sort of way of accessing the network.
Yes.
That's super simple just by putting their DNS entry in. It sort of bypasses the built-in or bypasses the normal connection to the Nintendo server and stuff. Now, what I wasn't does this only work because the real Nintendo server is no longer available?
No.
Okay, this would have worked anyway.
It would have worked before. Yeah. So what is actually here? Because I did mention it's an exploit that they're calling SSSL.
Right.
Because I'm going to say what I know, and then I'm going to say what I believe. The Wii U SSL stack has an exploit. They're like, there is a way around that, and so they were not talking about that on purpose, waiting for the Nintendo Network to shut down so they can say,
right,
okay, Nintendo Network shut down, great. We can do this, and now when you connect to our DNS server, what will happen is it will run the exploit against your Wii U.
Right. So
you can have limited access to Pretendo.
Right. So this isn't just like a DNS redirect. There's something more complicated going on there.
Yeah, I believe by accessing the DNS server itself, that is what's causing it to execute the SSL attack. That is basically allowing them the backdoor into, so that the Wii U itself will be like, this is what I'm going to rely upon for the network from now on. And to get off of Pretendo at that point, you just change that DNS server back to auto obtain.
Yeah, I wonder if this runs similarly to. I know a few years ago.
Go nowhere because it doesn't work.
Because the 3DS had Street Pass, but it also had what they called Spot Pass, which was essentially like you could Street Pass people who had hit like the Best Buy modem thing.
It was like a fixed location.
Yeah, and there were people who had found ways to make their own hotspots of that in their own houses.
Yeah, because how they were doing that was they were basically spoofing because all the Best Buy SSIDs. Like the wireless names of networks and stuff were all the same at every Best Buy. Right. And so when you went to a Best Buy with your Nintendo 3DS to get some stuff, you would connect to the name of that network. And so so we can do the same thing. We can advertise a network that then this thing automatically trusts, and we'll have a Best Buy Wi-Fi SSID in our house. And then when I connect to it, then it will, using a couple of built-in networking rules, it will hop and then hop to Nintendo servers and say, hey, look, this is coming from a place that has already been authorized by your 3DS. I would like my free download shit. Thank you very much.
It was actually pretty neat because Street Pass was like system to system, but this was if you passed by whatever like the Best Buy thing was, your me would go in there and then you would get an exchanged me that had already been in there. So it was kind of like this waiting room.
That's cool. Yeah.
Yeah. And so
I miss Street Pass. I would really love them to put that back on.
So that is what I know about the Wii U thing. You get if you do this hack, it's not a hack, it's a hackless hack, right? If you do this hackless hack,
I mean, it's like they are theoretically applying a hack.
They sure are. But you don't have to do it yourself, right? It is an automated kind of setup. It is limited access to the Pretendo network. It is not full access, whatever the hell that means. And you can reverse it by just changing the DNS thing, and it's like, well, now we no longer have access to your Wii U. That's fine. And and it only works on Wii U's that are at version 5.5.5 or higher. So it doesn't work anything below that. I guess that's when the SSL might have been introduced and had that thing introduced. And the 3DS doesn't work at all with that hack.
Right.
Why? Because if I remember correctly, there was an update that went out years ago for the 3DS because they're like, there is an SSL exploit that they found out about and they patched it right away.
But for some reason they didn't do it on the Wii U.
Well, I think that they, for some reason they didn't do it on the Wii U. I think it's basically the safest way to look at it. I think
One of these
they
devices sold a lot more than the other.
They might have only thought that it was affecting the 3DS. It might not even be the same SSL hack. They might have thought that, oh, well, there's no vector for people to do that on the Wii U, so don't devote a lot of time to it, perhaps. I'm not sure. It could also be, the install base is quite small, and what are you ultimately going to do by doing that? Who knows what the rationale is for why it didn't get fixed. But it means that you can do X. But you can also hack your Wii U yourself for real. You can hack your 3DS for real, and you can get on the Pretendo network and continue to do an awful lot of things that you would have been able to do with the Nintendo network being available. One of those things is what comes in the next story. What is not available will be the Dragon Quest VII DLC maps. That is not a Nintendo network related thing because it's not getting its DLC the same way that a lot of it, like out of the eShop or something along that line. It's coming through a different vector, which probably also requires having a Nintendo Network ID, but not likely, the same way. So I can't say for sure. I don't have the details on it.
I was going to say, as a quick note, obviously, and Beach kind of mentions it in the story about that we didn't actually give out what the DNS was. You have to go look at it on the website.
You all know how to use the internet if you're watching.
Because the story, that video will be archived, and who knows, maybe it'll change somewhere down the line or whatever. I was going to say, from a security standpoint, I remember we did a story a while ago that I think even including the Switch, Nintendo's official advice if you were having networking trouble was to open all of the ports on your router.
Yes.
Yep, that was.
I do remember that.
Maybe doing both of those things, changing your DNS to a third-party DNS that you don't have control over and it is explicitly applying a hack to your device, and also opening all the ports on your router through the larger network. Maybe don't do like both of those things.
Yeah.
Maybe definitely don't do the open all of your ports on your router one.
Yeah.
If you're gonna pick one to not do, don't do that one.
Yeah. I popped a hole in my router, opened up a port on there and just felt disgusting when I did it because I was like, that was closed, and I basically just went and drilled a hole in the wall of my house. Then it was just kind of like, I didn't drill a whole bunch of holes in the wall of my house, but I felt like I was drilling a hole through my house and being like, this is okay that I'm doing this. I'm like, I hate doing this, but it's going to help me do a thing, so I'm going to do this. I'm like, ugh.
Somewhat related, because the servers did shut down, so, you can't do your online Mario Kart DS or whatever anymore.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean your games have stopped working, just that portion. I have noticed that because it's one of those things that happens, right? It's like, oh, this thing is shutting down. So every topic of every podcast I listen to right now and every game thing is, what were your favorite games? Let's talk about the nostalgia. And it's really funny to me to watch. And I preface this with, I did like the Wii U. But it's really funny to watch all these people suddenly be like, the Wii U was actually really great. And I'm like, you did not feel that way. You still don't.
Yeah.
Well,
then maybe you should have bought one then.
Yeah. Should we name some of our favorite games for the Wii U? I'll go first. Mario Kart 8. It's a good game. Too bad that's not available anymore to play, I guess. Captain Toad Treasure Tracker was a very clever game as well. Yeah. Too bad that's not anywhere else you can play it.
Tokyo Mirage Sessions,
Oh,
Hyrule Warriors. Okay,
Lost forever.
I will say Hyrule Warriors on the Wii U was better in terms of the two-player split screen thing of having one person with a tablet and one person with a TV. Also, it didn't disconnect the two-player mode between every match. So that's the one
The big
Definitely
improvement
one that I say is better.
I did see someone in the comments. This bugged me when I saw it. I saw a lot of things in the comments that bugged me, but this one bugged me specifically because I was
Sorry,
like,
the comments to the checkpoint video, or
Yeah.
just generally
Just
looking
generally
at comments on YouTube.
comments on every place that I go to. If I'm looking at a story on Polygon and I scroll down too far, I'm like, oh, I'm about to get upset, and I don't know why. It's just you guys I like. Anyway,
Okay.
the
Beach
comment,
only likes you.
I'm not going to cast. I'm going to say this, and I'm not going to try to cast any aspersions on the person who wrote it because obviously people having opinions about stuff, and even if I do think that they're wrong. But what got me was the comment said something to the effect of, "I wonder if anyone's going to hold Nintendo responsible," or something like that. Nintendo has introduced 400,000 pieces of e-waste to the world. That kind of idea.
No, they haven't.
No, they haven't. And in fact, I would...
The idea that those devices are now...
Because they're useless now.
Now
right?
bricked.
I guess. Well, that's
Yeah.
the thing. Is that what is a piece of e-waste when you think about it, right? It's like this TV burned out. It no longer works, and I can't get any parts to repair it, so it goes to the e-waste pile, right? This computer, is I broke it in half over my knee when I lost a game of Fortnite, so now it has to go to the e-waste pile. That kind of idea. I mean,
Don't
we should be
break your
fixing
stuff
shit,
over
obviously.
Fortnite. It's not worth
But
it.
yeah, and it's entirely possible that we will get to a point where and there are devices out there now
Yeah.
where the server shutting off does indeed basically turn
Brick
into
the whole system,
brick
right?
the system,
Yeah.
turn into e-waste.
Yeah.
But we
the
don't-
the
we
Wii
don't-
U and the 3DS were not those systems.
No.
We don't have to go that far. I mean, those systems still work and will play things. It just won't play online things, much like the PS3. But I assume I shouldn't make assumptions on that. I'm going to get told that I'm wrong, and I probably am. But it's not like your old iPad that actually just doesn't work anymore because it can't update. Your old cell phone that literally doesn't work on a network anymore.
Yeah.
It's true.
But-
I mean,
And
like
nobody has gone after those companies for those things.
I mean,
have
people
they?
do go after them and be like, we don't like the fact that I can't use
Sure.
my old
No,
iPad
absolutely.
Mini
You don't
or
like
whatever.
it, but like, I don't recall a court case that's like, oh, you can't do that anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, nobody has basically said that, oh, Apple, you've made an iPad that no longer can be updated, so therefore you are responsible for reimbursing this person for whatever. And I'm like,
Right.
we buy a lot of things that wear out, and I am not a fan of planned obsolescence either. But at the same time, I also don't want to play my Switch for the next 30 years of my life. I'd like to see what the next console is that comes out.
Well, I mean,
like that's not, to me, that's not planned obsolescence.
No.
That's just regular
Yeah.
obsolescence.
yeah, I just think
There's
it's
that
funny
too.
that
I
the
mean, I
Wii
guess
U,
they planned for it,
Yeah.
but
the Wii U came out, and as far as I'm concerned, it's a really neat system, and it's got a lot of good features. It just didn't have a lot of games to go with it, and everyone's like, "Oh, but you know what? Yeah, that system." And I'm like, "No."
Yeah, don't act like
No.
that. I mean, the people who do act like that, please do act
And
like that.
I give a pass to people who were like 10 when it came out and it was a system, and so like
Yeah.
nostalgia. But I'm talking about the people who were like
Shitting on
in
it?
their 30s, definitely shitting on it, and now are like, "Oh no, it was really good actually." And I'm like, "Nah."
Yeah. I mean, I guess in a way though, I don't mind if people have decided that now it's time to come around on something and be like, I used to shit on this thing, but now that I've looked at what's on it, I'm like, oh, actually this was a good system and I maybe shouldn't have done that. And it's like, good, we live, we learn, that's fine, you know.
And I apologize for those of you who like Xenoblade Chronicles X and Splatoon 1 and 2. I do hope one day you get your
Over
stuff moved forward. Do not
That's so-
listen to Beach.
so cruel
I
of
am a
me.
much nicer person than Beach will ever be.
so I got distracted because said, people say, like I shit on this system, but
Yeah.
then I look and see what's on it, and maybe it's not. So,
Yeah, maybe it actually is good overall. Coming from the guy who's the fanboy.
but what's on it is the shit. You
Tends
shit,
to be,
you
yeah.
shit on it.
Do you
Tends
know-
to be,
do you
that's
know
what
what's on our
happens.
Wii U?
That's what you put
You know
on
what's
it.
on our Wii U? Ogre Battle 64, because every time that game comes out somewhere, I buy it again,
Yeah.
and I still can't get past the level where the ogres show up because I do not min-max properly, and
Yeah.
I don't care. I like the little bean-looking people.
So sorry, I know nothing about Ogre Battle 64, but that you mean like, I love that game so much, but I can't get past the part where the ogres show up.
I know, yeah.
In a game called Ogre Battle. It seems like that's pretty early in the game.
It is, actually. It's a few hours in.
It's a few hours in. I don't know how long the game is, though, so I can't tell you percentage-wise.
I love that you love that game so much based on a small piece of it, but that it has really always appealed to you. That's like, this is a thing that I love, and I love it irrationally, but I can't bring myself to do it because I'm like, there are people who have that, right, where it's like, I love this game, like I love APB, which is a it's a driving game, top down. You play a cop, but you play like all the cops in the game are dirty cops. You have to drive your car around and you have to ram into people to run them off the road. But it's not Chase HQ. It's different. I like it because I love how just ridiculous it is, and there's a bunch of shit going on. It's very, very interesting to me. And I'm like, I am shit at that game. I played it during the subathon for a little while, and I'm like, I'm shit at it here too. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, I love that game irrationally because of just all the things about it. And I'm so bad at it, and I'll never get good at it.
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely games that just like, I don't know, hit you a certain way, twinge that particular thing in your brain.
It's a little block shows up when you boot the game up, and the little tiny soldier characters take their little spears and they hit at it, and it makes the Nintendo 64 logo, and I love it.
Mm-hmm. So
yes, I am playing Unicorn Overlord, or at least I've checked out the demo. I'll get to the game eventually. I own it.
If somebody made like
it's good.
Ogre Battle 64 mod that's just like Battle 64, like without the ogres.
No, of course not. I still play the original.
But back to the thing, it's like the comment bothered me because it just made me think that I'm like, if a console no longer being online means that it's e-waste, then I guess throw out your NES, throw out your Sega Mega Drives, throw out all that shit because they were never online in the first place, and they're also old, and I guess that what
I'm
what
sure
counts.
they wouldn't count those because they weren't online in the first place.
I guess that's the whole point. Like I don't know what the point is to that, but I'm like, I don't think a lot of that stuff qualifies. I don't think that the Wii U and the 3DS being offline now means that, oh well, they're a complete waste of a system and they're basically an albatross around your neck and they're dragging you into the sea, right?
And I mean, especially, it's sort of especially ironic because, to be frank, Nintendo, prior to the Switch, I think they've sharpened up with the Switch.
They are getting better.
But prior to the Switch, Nintendo was known for having terrible internet stuff.
Yeah.
And sort of network online connectivity as a whole. They didn't really...
It was not their bread and butter. Yeah, they were like, we don't understand why this is important, but we'll keep trying to work on it.
And so like of any consoles of a similar generation, like of the consoles that were sort of around at that time, I would say the Wii U and the 3DS are like the least necessary to go online.
I would say so too.
Do you know how good it was when we got the 3DS and then the friend codes were actually system wide and not game by game based?
Oh yeah.
Because I had a Pokemon game where you had to have your friend code on the Pokemon game, and when I made it switch systems, it renewed the friend code, so I had to go and find everyone again.
Oh.
The concept of friend codes like itself is like Nintendo, reinventing the like friend list concept in the most backwards way possible.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, I won't say they haven't done things that seem strange, but they also have done a lot of things that I think are more fun, and it feels like they swing a lot, and sure, maybe they miss a lot, but I think they also hit quite a bit too.
I still think a lot of those things were probably down to some sort of patent that they thought they were going to run afoul of, and they're like, well, then make it different. Come up with a different way to do it, make it different. It's like, oh, you should have just found a way to make it more the same. Oh, well.
I mean, Steam now has friend codes. I mean, Steam had friend codes for, like, that's what the thing is. The concept of friend codes is not new. The thing that Nintendo did was it.
Yeah.
That was the only way. And you couldn't search for people. You had to like know the person personally and get their friend code. Like that was their that was their idea, because that
Yeah.
way it's sort of a protection thing.
That way you know the person.
Which kind of makes, and makes a certain amount of sense, but was a very kind of backwards idea for that time.
It was very limiting. It's true. Yeah.
Anyway, let's just quickly jump on to the other one that Peter was talking about.
The Dragon Quest one.
Yeah, the Dragon Quest one.
Okay.
And you covered, you and Kathleen covered the sort of intricacies of this, the idea that you're trying to recover, trying to preserve these maps, and it's not enough to just have it a save file with the maps in them.
Yeah.
You need it to be sort of as pristine a save file as possible,
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
required this sort of speed run weird way of doing it.
Yeah.
I did stick a link to the actual video in the description
Oh,
of the
good.
checkpoint video, just because I felt like for that one, for one, Beach kept saying you should watch the
You
video in the
should.
after chat, so I felt like we should give people
Yeah.
the
Give her
place
some
where it
views.
was.
I think she'd probably appreciate that.
Some people in the comments to our video mentioned it, and I think Beach did as well, that she just has an entertaining way of talking,
Yeah.
not at all making fun of not making fun of her at
there
all.
are-
She
there
does
are-
a very good job of
I-
explaining the whole thing, and she's got little visual aids.
Yeah.
That
There's a
pop up
lot
and
of
stuff.
European accents that I really like,
Yeah.
and there's a lot of like, and yeah, it's like the video itself is not just because she has an Irish accent. It's also because the great little drawings and everything else
Yeah.
that comes up. I'm like, yeah.
I
Feckin'.
have stopped listening to certain videos because there are certain voice patterns that I felt that I couldn't stand.
Yeah.
And there are other people who I watch because I like the way they sound.
Yeah.
That's normal. Don't go around telling people they sound like shit. Awful human being thing to do.
Right. So the story here, Dragon Quest VII had DLC that required you to play the game to a certain point before you were allowed to access it. We've seen that in a lot of different companies do that kind of thing,
Yeah, although I will say,
but it's not usual.
well, I will say I don't think I've ever seen. I've certainly seen games where you have to go to a certain point to access the DLC.
Yeah.
I haven't seen games where like you can't get the DLC before you get to that point. Like usually you can like have it in your account. You just can't get to it in the game.
No,
You have to
it's,
unlock
it's
until
actually
later.
it's actually decently common within games on the 3DS because the eShop might not have a way for you to find that DLC if you don't have the part in the game that actually links you to that area.
Oh, interesting.
And I think that's more of a safety valve of, I know you own the game, but it's usually pretty,
So you can't just like
you can get some DLC that way. It's just not all of them are that way. And I think that's typically on games that want you to go in a little further before you run into it. I think in Dragon Quest VII's case, those maps might involve story.
Yeah.
so you can't just like go to the Dragon Quest 7 page on the eShop and like download all the DLCs.
Yeah.
You have to first get to the point.
Probably not for that system.
And they don't
No.
seem to be, and they also don't seem to be part of the ROM of the game. Like you do have to download them. You
Yeah.
have to be available
Yeah, it is an
online and
extra
download
thing.
them.
They don't really do that on the Switch anymore, from what I've seen.
Yeah.
That's kind of an older thing, but
I mean, most Switch games these days that have an unusual DLC thing where I've run into is mostly that it's like, this game was already on another 3 platforms already, so we just put all the DLC in this game already. You just have it. So Saints Row 4 was a lot of fun because all the DLC was just right there. Though you could only access it once you got to a certain point in the game also, but yeah.
well, yeah, you can still gate when you can play the DLC in a game, even if you've acquired it.
So the point of what happened here is 2 different Dragon Quest fans, one of which made a video talking about what she went through to go get everything. 2 different Dragon Quest fans got the maps in an EU version of the game, like a PAL version, and also in the USA version of the game. And they had to download those maps onto the save file, and then they've uploaded the save file somewhere so we have all that stuff saved, because it's a very good chance that, I mean, I like to imagine that in the future, if Dragon Quest VII gets released again on another platform, like they do a remake of it, and they're like, we want to put this out. It's not usual.
Who's got the
Capcom.
It's
No,
Capcom?
no, Square Enix.
It's
right? 'Cause
Square?
it's Enix owns Dragon Quest, Square owns Final Fantasy. Then
Right.
they merged. So
I'm sure at some point they'll re-release it.
you'd like to think that it will happen at some point, yeah.
I mean, this is like this reminds me a little bit of like we did a story a while ago about those the like satellite F-Zero.
Oh yeah, BS Satellaview, yeah.
Yeah, the Satellaview things, or those that Zelda
The radio
broadcast.
one, yeah.
Where these things where there isn't a good archive of it, and you sort of go, for like the F-Zero thing, you sort of go like, well, if they wanted to re-release it, the company presumably has it and could do it. In some cases they don't.
They don't.
Because companies are really stupid about this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And sometimes they
They record over their old episodes of Doctor Who.
Yeah, sometimes they lose that
I
for
don't
whatever
mean to
reason.
interrupt, but I do think it is relevant. Beach, have you seen who has joined our chat?
No, I have not actually.
Grano Banana. Just came in
Oh,
the stream,
yeah.
seeing your video, talk about my video. Thank you so
Oh.
much again. Thank you for coming to our channel and seeing us talk about you again.
Thank you very much. I had to play 10 hours of DQ7 before I got to the DLC part. It's a good bit in. So yeah, so for me to sit here and talk about all the things that went on, you just go watch the video, and I'm sure they would be more than happy to answer questions maybe about what happened there, or they have their own Twitch channel, I'm sure too, probably. I don't know. I'm not
Well,
gonna
that's how they
spread
are
it.
interacting with us.
Yeah, so they.
I don't know.
But yeah, I thought it was a great story, and I love the fact that it was accomplished, right? That it's like now that thing is floating out there wherever it is. I'm sure people will be able to find it, but it is floating out there, and it means that we haven't lost a piece of gaming that I suspected. Like, as I was like, at some point Square Enix might be like, well, we'll do a Dragon Quest 4 through 6 release again, and we'll do a 7 through 9 release again.
I know Square has re-released
that kind of idea,
stuff.
and then we'll put all the DLC onto those things so that you will be able to have them again.
Yeah,
Like,
and I mean
that's not
that's
necessarily
what I
going to
hope
happen.
they do. I just don't know how. I'm not familiar with Dragon Quest, so I don't know how often they re-release things or.
They seem pretty uninterested in releasing the older games
Because Final Fantasy, I know I can get a copy of every one of those games except for maybe 13 here and there.
And like on multiple
systems.
It'll be
pixel format or some other weird thing they did to it.
In 10 years. It'll be Dragon Quest 7 remake.
Dragon Quest is supposed to be one of the biggest franchises in Japan, so I don't understand why they aren't constantly remaking their stuff.
And I think it's because they realize that like what makes it more interesting is
They'll
playing a new version of the game, like of being like, it's Dragon Quest, here's your slimes and here's your Drakis and here's all that kind of stuff, the quest of the hero, right? Like that kind of thing. They want to keep doing that as opposed to Final Fantasy, which feels like, shit, should it be a road trip this time? I don't know.
I just wish that as boy bands they had a lot of like rhythm music sing things and that. I think it would have been fun.
Yeah.
Also, actually, one other thing that I saw in the article, and that the people have shouted out is Sack Chief on Twitter.
Yeah, who I didn't mention, but they're also very important.
They were
Who's
over
the
your
one?
shoulder in
He's
the
the one who sort of
graphic.
instigated this whole thing.
Yes.
Just being like, "Hey, everybody, does somebody have?" And and of course, it's one of those things where it's like, "Hey, could somebody do this?" And then everyone, and what happens when you do things like this? We sometimes get this for loading ready run stuff.
Yeah.
Where you're like, "Hey, could somebody do this?" And 500 people are immediately right there to say no. Mm-hmm. No, they can't.
Yeah, they're very excited to not help.
And it's like, I thank you for posting that message. That was very helpful to tell you that you can't.
I mean, I love a good story of I saw this person say this thing. I don't have time to do this thing. Fine, I'm gonna do this thing because I felt that. I felt that on occasion. It's not.
Oh, and before we move on, then I'll take this opportunity to say to I hope I hope I said Gronya correctly. I have no idea if it's Gronya or Gronya, or I was probably getting it wrong because I didn't get to hear you say the name. Second is, I hope you have recovered successfully from your hospital visit, because it sounded like it was miserable if you're laid up for as long as you were. And I'm glad you found a way to pass the time in the most miserable way possible.
Maybe we should just maybe doctors should just prescribe recovery times in Dragon Quest VII increments.
That is literally what Child's Play is for, right? Is to you're in the hospital, great, have a video game for a while.
That's true.
Yeah, Grania, okay. Okay, great.
All right, well, let's
see. Kathleen's stories were
talking about the Triple I
showcase.
Yes.
Who's watched that?
I have watched a little bit of it.
Okay.
I heard a bit about it.
Am I the only one who ever does the watching homework?
All right, I'm sorry.
What?
I read articles that other people wrote about watching it.
You were also waiting to see
fair.
if Silk Song was going to be revealed. Let's be honest.
Okay, to be honest, I didn't actually expect Silk Song to be at the thing, but my brain was like, technically an indie. And they did that thing where they put up their Xbox game listing, and I think the Steam one, on April 1st, which was annoying for reasons. But I had some hopes. I mean, they announced Slay the Spire 2 at the beginning.
Yeah. Big
which
deal.
I was like, oh, cool, more Slay the Spire. And then they were like, early access 2025. I'm like, all right, think about it later, pile.
So 2026, 27, when it'll actually come out?
I have no idea how long it takes for a game to hit early access to hit full release.
Yeah.
That's fine, though. I'm sure I'll just play regular Slay the Spire. I almost started playing it again because that's what that kind of game is.
Oh man, there's actually a great article on Ars Technica that I was reading this morning. The title of which was, it's like, why are there 861 roguelike deck builders on Steam right now?
Oh, gee, and why do they all kind of have this very similar look to them?
Apparently, roguelite deck builders are kind of a gold rush right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's some that are I haven't played, but I know of that do take the format differently. Like I believe Monster Train is still technically I don't know if it's a deck builder, but it's a card roguelite thing. But you're doing stuff that's thematically different.
I mean, there was a period of time when like that's why I bumped off of Baten Kaitos back in the day, right? Because I was like, I can't handle the thing of you have a deck. She knows that
I was there.
I wanted to like this game so much.
You were mad.
Yeah, I was so mad because I'm like, what? How do I attack? I swing a sword? No, I have a bunch of cards, and if I play the card that has a sword on it, then I can attack. But I can only do that so many times until a card that is not a sword comes up, and then I don't get to attack anymore. I'm like, wow, that sounds awful to me. I am holding a sword, but I can't do anything with it. You've eliminated part of the game that I like. So
Paul,
I'm not into deck builders.
Paul, I remember being on this stream because I was like, ooh, they have all this dialogue. I'm going to do a voice. And Beej was like, I'm going to go through the dialogue so fast that we're not doing that. I'm like, oh, okay.
Just want to see if this is... Yeah. But the idea of like building working a deck building component into a lot of different games, I think has gotten more and more popular the more and more indie developers have come to market. And so, yeah, having 861 roguelite deck builders showing up. I mean, especially based on the back of Slay the Spire was so popular that to have a bunch of people being like, well, we can occupy that space. Like maybe there's something cool we can bring to maybe I have a different art style. Maybe I have a different idea for progression, you know? And
yeah, to be fair, this article in Ars Technica was quite interesting. It's not like saying, they're not saying that everyone's copying Slay the Spire. There's a lot of interesting stuff in there.
I'm saying that because some of the ones I've seen look exactly like Slay the Spire.
I mean, some people are. But what they were talking about is that that particular genre is sort of uniquely suited for sort of a small team can get a really interesting, quite polished looking thing out there quite quickly.
Yeah, I can believe that.
Which but So yeah, I mean, I watched enough of the AAA event to be impressed by. So when I wanted to get for the intro to the show, to the checkpoint.
yeah, I saw what you.
Yeah,
used
it was
the
like is
sit down,
triple
relax,
I better than
or
quadruple
whatever.
A? Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'll start it with the like I'll use a bit of like whatever their like intro attract thing will be for triple I. And so I like grabbed the video. For one thing, they need somebody like Heather, because the official recording of the video starts with half an hour of their countdown.
So chances are good they were doing what they needed to do is go in and cut off it was likely a live stream originally.
It was.
And then you gotta go cut that
but
off.
you can edit that.
I've seen people complain about that and other stuff, and it's like, oh, you've just caught it too early. But,
Anyway,
I mean,
but then it goes like, this thing, sit down, this is going to be great, look at all these things, boom, and that's it. I was like, oh, and then it was just like Slay the Spire 2. And it was just like, okay, you guys aren't messing around, you are literally just going to go through the games.
They had these scene transitions between a lot of the trailers, because it gave you kind of there have been game trailers I've watched where when they start another trailer, you're just kind of like, wait, am I still in the same game? Because the topic's kind of similar, but the art style has kind of shifted, but not totally, and you're like, I don't know.
They're still both about zombies for some reason.
So that was nice.
It's my favorite one is when they do like the trailer for like not a specific game, but for like Xbox as a whole. You're watching the trailer and you're like, oh, this looks like a cool game. All these like dragons flying around, and then now they're shooting missiles. That's really weird. And now there's like a little dude with a sword running around, and the graphics are going from live photorealistic to cell shaded. This is going to be a really weird game. Oh, I see.
You cut together
really cool.
promo.
They did do, it was mostly trailers. There were a couple of games that had the dev talk briefly at the beginning to say who they were, which is mostly something I've seen in the Nintendo Indie Directs, and PlayStation started to kind of do that a little bit in some of their showcases. I don't watch the Xbox one, so I don't know what they do. And that was kind of nice. I kind of missed I don't need a person to show up at the beginning and say things that are like, hey, we're doing this thing now. That's really
right, everybody. Please sit still while we go over the latest games that'll be coming in the next 3 to 6 months.
Like Nintendo will do this thing sometimes in theirs where they'll pop back to that presentation person, and depending on who it is, sometimes they'll just be like, what did you think of that? And now moving on to this thing. And
that was a maze-ing for this maze game.
Just kind of like, okay, I don't really need that. But I do kind of miss like the part where it's like, oh, and one more thing. It's not like they didn't have that. They ended with the Prince of Persia thing, and that's still like kind of one of the bigger
That's a big reveal,
out of the thing. But there's that, it didn't have that like, they showed that off, and then they did kind of a montage of all the games that they had shown during the thing, which I like, but because you do that there and you don't do a game reveal after that you don't have that sense of flow to the one more thing.
And there's like an aspect where, again, when I was watching it, they sort of went right into Slay the Spire 2 and then sort of kept going, and I was like, oh, this isn't like a like the Video Game Awards or E3 presentations or all this stuff are a presentation.
Right.
It's like a live event. It's like, this is just a video package that's been put together, and it's like there.
Probably by
which is fine.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with
But
that.
there's a certain, even if you're watching it at home, there's a certain aspect of it being like the idea that there is somewhere a place where this is actually like happening.
Yeah.
It isn't just like a video package that somebody put together.
Right. You want to feel like an event, and the directs actually do feel like an event, despite the fact that it is just we recorded this all beforehand and it's not happening live. Yeah.
I think the problem I have with current Nintendo Directs, because I don't mind the breathing space and stuff. I know I don't personally necessarily need some of that, but what we miss is Iwata.
Yeah.
We miss his directs, where he would show up and be like, directly to you. And then, especially the E3 directs he did, right? Where, I don't know, him and Reggie got into a fist fight for Smash Brothers, or like something fun and entertaining happened. The Muppets thing happened. He stared at a bunch of bananas.
Yep.
You know, the more fun, meme stuff.
Yep.
And if they want to change their presentation, not necessarily the AAA showcase, but if Sony would like to go and change their presentation to everyone just stares at fruit for some reason every now and then, I'd be okay with that.
I feel like that's more up like Devolver's alley for their presentations.
Which is funny, right?
Devolver's such hit and miss for me.
They like the AAA showcase almost certainly is the brainchild of like a single marketing arm, almost certainly. Like a single marketing company that works with indies has probably said, you know what we want to do is we want to help promote things. We want to help promote this idea that all this stuff is happening. Not a marketing firm, I'm sure, that each one of these games works with, but one where they have said, we can probably coordinate something to launch this idea and get this out in front of a lot of people.
My understanding was it was a bunch of indie studios, like the one that does Slay the Spire and a couple of their larger games were talking to each other and decided to do this thing, not necessarily a marketing firm.
Yeah, I think it was sort of a collaboration between 2 or 3 were sort of the main pushers for the thing.
I would assume that people in the studio, though, like in any of those studios, weren't like, cool, we'll take on the workload and do it. I would assume they would have outsourced that to somebody who would have helped promote it.
Maybe. I don't
mean.
know. That's the perception I got.
Yeah, but I mean, good on them if there's like a few studios who are like, hey, you know what, we can promote our games if we work together. In fact, if we all devote a little bit of our marketing budget, we can actually have a bigger impact on on making a thing happen that has much more impact.
And that was the idea. Like when they first put it out there, they were like, it's we're funding, like there's not going to be any ads.
Yeah,
there's not going to be there's no sponsorship. It's just we're all chipping in to do this.
We want to talk.
But we just to make it more of like an event.
Because I didn't watch it, after every trailer, was there a moment of, like they do on the Nintendo ones, they tend to, where it'll be like, here's the logo, and then on the white field and on the red field below it, it's like, release date this date, or release date summer 2025, release date coming in 2026, like that.
Not
kind
like
of thing.
that. It looked like it was part of the original trailer, where it would just like generally end with a wish list on Steam now kind of thing.
Yeah,
but it looked like it was part of the actual trailer that had been submitted, not.
So it was always
an
a different
extra thing.
It was a different representation for every single trailer because it was something that was baked into the trailer.
Yeah.
And that's what I like about the directs, is that they actually do feel like Nintendo has said to everybody, send us all your marketing videos and stuff. Send us whatever you're kind of putting together. We are going to turn that into unified looking stuff so it all belongs together. And maybe this could also benefit from that too, to be like, make it a more unified presentation.
I feel like it looks as if most of the games were relatively circumspect about when stuff was happening. There was a lot of like summer, or just giving general guidelines,
which is still
for
good.
when it comes, but just good. Although Cataclysmo, it's July 16th. And the Prince of Persia one is early access May 14th. So they do have some real.
Yeah, there was some stuff that was definitely coming up sooner. I didn't really. A lot of stuff that popped up wasn't stuff that I was interested in like writing down right now. So I was like, the dates and stuff wasn't something I was paying attention to. I do remember getting taken off guard by Dino Lords because that was just funny.
Yep.
And stuff going on. They're like Dino Lords.
Dino Lords.
You got me.
I'm excited about Dino Lords for when that sort of starts. When it actually comes out or whatever. I'm sure there's going to be there's some checkpoint fodder in there somewhere.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We have to talk about
when,
that.
When I was watching the Prince of Persia portion, to me it didn't look like Prince of Persia. I'm not super familiar with Prince of Persia, but it didn't look like Prince of Persia to me. So it was just like this guy running around trying to stop things from attacking this girl and stuff. And then they showed some gameplay, and I was like, oh, this seems like somebody's aping Prince of Persia really hard. And then it was like Prince of Persia, and then it added the rogue part at the top. I'm like, oh. Wait, is this actually Prince of Persia? And I had to wait for the Ubisoft logo to hit before I was like, oh, okay. It is.
He's purpler
Yeah.
than I would have thought.
It's an interesting.
It's a different art style than I think has been used before.
Yeah.
That I'm aware of.
Do we like this better though than a 3-hour Game Awards essentially?
I mean,
I would rather the Game Awards just be awards.
Yes.
Yeah,
And then they let the people talk.
Yeah.
I mean, speaking as the
I know that's
game
not like part of why they're
enthusiast
doing
media,
the thing,
I
but
guess.
Yeah.
I'm very happy with them doing it this way. You know?
Yeah.
So I would be very happy for future triple I showcases.
I
Although
thought they did it in April.
I feel like they really do need to explain what triple I means. I had to Google it separately. I kept thinking because it says triple I initiative.
Yeah, which you think means.
And so I was like, oh, so what do the other 3 I's stand for?
Well, okay, but we say ATM machine, and the M in the ATM is machine.
Yes.
So maybe they're doing that thing where it's like the last I is actually supposed to mean initiative.
Yeah.
But they're saying it out loud because they don't want people to be confused.
But yeah, and then I saw it was explained that triple I just means triple A, but indie. I was like, okay.
Also,
Well, it's making fun of it.
An initiative feels more like it is something that is an ongoing exercise. It is something that's like we are taking this, we're doing this thing because we feel like it's a project that we have to work on to do. And I'm like, okay, well, what you did though was a showcase. You did one thing. You showed off a bunch of stuff. I prefer thinking of it as it's the Triple I showcase because it's like you put a bunch of trailers together and then you did a thing all under one brand.
Perhaps the showcase is one aspect of the overarching triple I initiative.
That might be very true.
Our friend Molly has asked, but what do the A's in the AAA stand for in the game sense, not in the auto? Good clarification. And my understanding, because it's a made-up term, is that the A's are actually supposed to be a grading between specific topics. And this is why this is bogus. Because if it was really a grading system, like all the rhythm games I play, there should be an S+ in every one of those. So we should actually be saying S++.
Yep. Yeah. The AAA. The concept of AAA lost all meaning when we lost every other. Like there's AAA and then there's not AAA.
Yeah.
Like there isn't any other designation.
Well, I mean, you might say this shit is B tier. You might say that, right? Because it's like, well, because a B movie and all that, people know what a B tier game might actually be.
Yeah, my understanding is that there's not necessarily a proper like codified grading system that denotes AAA.
Yeah.
It's so much as somebody mentioned it as a system or started kind of saying a thing and then people latched onto it. But that's also why you have like we made fun of the guy who was like, oh, we're into quadruple A great games, and it's like, well, if each A is actually supposed to be like, oh, this is the highest quality of, I don't know, music and visuals and something story, then what's that fourth A for?
Yeah.
What's that actually for?
Yeah.
Avarice.
You can't just say, oh, well, we added another A onto it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I mean, realistically, AAA these days basically means we spend over $100 million on it.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that it's good. It is not, AAA is not a quality rating.
No, it's just, it was made by a really big studio.
Yeah. I've always felt that it was like, they're calling it that because that's like when you refer to baseball teams. Right, that you're in AA league, AAA league, and then you get to the majors. Just kind of the idea. So if you're a AAA farm team, it's like you're one step below actually being able to go to the majors at that point.
Which I feel like is, it would be fascinating actually to see, because there's also that stuff with like, AAA plumbing and whatever, like
Get in the front of the phone book.
get in the front of the phone
We
book. I
do-
feel like those things
yeah.
might be tied together in like a weird way.
We do have a habit of taking sports analogies and making them into real things for some reason.
Yeah, and car analogies. But
Yeah.
No, we're more heavy on the sports stuff. There's so much terminology that happens in this office where when I ask about why do we say that, I find out it's related to football or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wonder. How would the justice system in the world be different if baseball had like 4 outs rather than 3, like 3 strikes rather than 4 strikes?
Yeah.
Would that have like? Would they actually have like done a whole different justice? They're like the 3 strike system. We're not going to use. We're going to use a 4 strike system because
They
that's
definitely
what baseball
don't use
uses.
the 3 strike system in the UK. I don't think, because it would all be based on cricket, right?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Nobody has any idea how cricket works. You're absolutely right.
That's not what he said.
Anyway,
Where are we?
I love cricket
Let's-
highlights.
let's move on to this fun little story that came out of my favorite new place to dig up stories that
Oh,
may
yeah?
not show up in other places.
Oh.
Don't say Reddit.
Why?
Is it Reddit?
Yeah.
Okay.
It is. There's the
I just didn't think that would be new.
Yeah, I didn't think so either.
it's not new. Well, it's new in the sense that the r/hobby drama
Oh.
is a subreddit where they talk about
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that. R/what?
hobby drama.
Hobby drama. Oh,
Yeah.
yes.
It's
yes.
a
Okay.
primarily they talk about things but they're primarily oriented to things that happened, usually more than like a year or two.
Oh, things
ago.
that aren't happening.
Yeah.
Okay.
And
all
so
right, all right.
they give usually very, very amusing recaps of something that happened in a particular fandom. But every week they have a sort of mega thread of sort of little things that are going on currently. And so I often will look in there to see if there's anything sort of video game related, because it's a nice place to find stuff that may not have hit other places.
Yeah.
And this particular thing, and it's mentioned in the write-up that the person did, that it hasn't actually been really reported anywhere.
Right.
Because it's a very sort of internal to this particular weird cookie games fandom. But, so the idea here is there's this game called Cookie Run for Cacao, I think. That's how you say it.
Sure.
Which is
This
an
is
old...
a South Korean game?
Yes, it is an older South Korean mobile game, and it stopped active development a while ago. And in fact, the servers have been shut down everywhere other than South Korea since 2018. But it still has people still play it, and it just randomly got a big update that added a bunch of stuff, including a new character and a new pet for that character. And the new character is called Strawberry Shortcake, and she has
No relation.
She has like cat ears, but they're actually strawberries. They're quite adorable.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got a little like cake that's a dog, is her pet. Anyway, in order to get the dog, because of course
It's a mobile game.
it's a mobile game, it's a gacha thing. In order to get the dog, you either have to pay money or you had to add 20 friends to this like you have to send them this message and get them to sign up for this like chat app.
Oh, so they have to sign up
And-
as well, huh?
I'm not sure if they have to sign up,
Maybe
but
you don't. You just
or
have to
you,
spam
or you
them.
used to add them as friends.
Yeah.
And the message is like particularly spammy.
Good.
And so, most people aren't willing to, most people don't want to send stupid message to all their friends.
Let alone for a game that is 11 years old at this point.
Right,
Yeah.
right. Maybe they're slightly ashamed of be playing the game in the first place.
Sure.
That's why,
Or maybe they're kids playing and they don't necessarily want to tell everybody that they're playing.
That's why I'm asking if they actually have to sign up, because I've done this stuff in mobile games. It's why I have many burner emails.
Oh, so you just send it to yourself over and over again?
Yes.
Nice.
I mean, not for that game. I didn't know
No.
that game existed until yesterday.
But the fun part about this is concurrently with this is the South Korean elections have just recently taken place.
Right, yes.
The General Assembly. And in South Korea, as in most places, in the lead up to elections, everybody gets sick and tired of being spammed by the various candidates, both robocalls, ads everywhere,
People driving around yelling out of vans.
and spam emails, marketing things, all this kind of stuff. Extremely annoying. And also, as part of this, they all have their phone numbers are up in the the phone number to contact that council member
right.
is in on the government's website.
This is the phone number for their office or whatever, yes.
to I
hope
guess
it's not their cell phone.
if
but-
you're
likely.
if you're a constituent or whatever,
Yeah.
you can contact them. And so somebody decided to put two and two together and started passing around this list of phone numbers to people. I love
Some of them probably were cell phones then.
calling it. Yeah. I like calling it. It was calling it a life hack.
Sure, yeah, you know
It's like, hey, here's you need a bunch of phone numbers that are like real phone numbers.
Have you tried the government?
to get this little dog. Here's a bunch of phone numbers, and apparently, like a reasonable percentage of the candidates replied to people, and some of them even signed up for the game.
Yeah.
And so I feel like it's like, obviously it's this kind of crappy spam message that's sent out, but political candidates on the campaign trail are so desperate for interactions with their it's like, oh, what can we do? Will this get your vote? What
Yeah.
do we have to do to get you? I
Frankly, that's the thing.
get the really important cookie mobile game demographic.
I feel like if I did that to our MLA, which is provincial, right?
Yeah.
I feel like if I did that to our MLA, she would absolutely sign up for whatever game that I've sent for whatever, right? And then use that as a means to parlay that into some sort of press release or something along that line, something that somebody would have heard about as a means of drop a note to the CBC to be like, oh, here's a human interest story that's interesting, that kind of thing.
Right,
and you'd have
right.
the other competing candidates from their parties also doing the same thing, talking about, oh yeah, no, I signed up for it too, because it's clearly something my constituents are doing, and a lot of them use my phone number to sign up for this thing. So
It's like when
they would all try to make hay of it in the media, absolutely.
So like when AOC was playing Among Us
Yeah.
and stuff.
And the thing is, because when she was doing that, it's kind
Or
of like,
Yagmeet Singh was playing too, wasn't he?
Yeah, and because when AOC was doing it, she was silver tier in League. She's been playing League for a while. And so it's like, oh yeah, I'll go drop it on the stream with AOC, which to me I was kind of like, man, I'd love to have her be on our streams for that kind of thing. That would be a lot of fun. It's like, but we're all Canadians. But I'm like, maybe she could relax because then we're all, but it wouldn't matter because there's a whole American audience watching us anyway.
Yeah,
So
you're public facing. You can't just necessarily.
but yeah, I mean, candidates are of our age, right? They're in their 40s too, and they play video games.
So the end result of this is that a ton of the candidates running for General Assembly were just getting inundated with the same message over and over and over again from different people.
Great.
And stuff. Now, as Kathleen says, apparently, from all, it's not like it, took down the cell network or anything like. and this is why it hasn't been reported in any big journals or any newspapers or news things or anything. But as this person said, it was very big within the cookie run community.
Yes.
And I thought it was funny.
Yeah. I think it's funny as hell.
And very, very, low level mayhem.
And the impact, get brought up in chat. Maricat even says, but is it unethical, right? And it's like, it's a good, because Socratic Method points out that too, spam is this unethical? It's, that kind of, so there is that idea. It's like, is this unethical? Yes, I think it is. Is it funny? Absolutely, and I don't have the problem with the ethics of it because overall, I'm like, it doesn't affect me, so I feel better about it. But
I think there's a balance.
I think there's a balance.
A minor breach of ethics versus extremely funny.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's a balance that everybody has to has to come to their own conclusions for, I guess.
I mean, I wouldn't send spam invites to my actual friends. I might do it to my enemies, though. Is that unethical?
Depends on. I mean, it depends
You're
on what.
You're not one of my enemies.
It
Paul.
depends on
Does
what.
Does that change your mind?
Yeah. What part of the movie are we in?
It depends on what those people have done to be your enemies, I guess.
Yeah.
They're really, really bad people. Definitely have slighted me in the worst ways.
Then definitely,
yeah.
it's fine.
Then absolutely, yeah.
Uh,
You're seeking whatever. If you're the aggrieved party here, you're seeking whatever recourse you can. If this is like I spit on your grave, then I sign you up for cell phone spam. Is kind of a little. That falls in below in terms of what you can do.
I do intend to. Several years from now, after I pass away, become a ghost, and I've decided the way I want to haunt people is through phone spam.
Oh no!
Yeah. It's real scary.
All right. And then the final thing that's coming up is that Sega has declared 2024 the Year of Shadow.
In this Sonic's 30th anniversary.
Yes.
What anniversary is for Shadow?
Or as some folks found out, this is, I believe, Shadow's 23rd anniversary.
Oh, great.
Oh.
So I feel like following Sonic's system, we would be perfectly within our rights to call this either Shadow's 20th or 25th anniversary.
Right.
Because whatever. But yeah, they
Are they looking to lose money on him too?
I went through a couple of different iterations. I wrote the coming up for this, and my first iteration of this joke was rather than initiate their plan to block out the sun and hold the world in ransom with a Sega Saturn. Mm-hmm. My first iteration of the joke was it's either that they're going to be emphasizing Shadow the Hedgehog, or this is the cutscene intro from M. Bison in a
Street Fighter game.
In a Street Fighter game.
Yeah. The Year of Shadow.
Yeah, it's like that's definitely like the guy. The evil guy comes in at the beginning, like blows up whatever he blows up, and is like, "Yes, this will be the Year of Shadow." Yes. And then you have to fight him. And his organization is called Shadow Lu.
Yeah.
I have several questions. When you say the Year of Shadow, is that like this calendar year, or is this like a financial year thing where it starts in March and goes?
I don't know. Yeah,
March?
if this is in fact the Year of Shadow, it's kind of weak that he lost 3 months of it.
I know. Earlier in the year, they announced Sonic Generation Shadow, which was I think a remake of Sonic Generations
Shadow
with Shadow.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming they're gonna rope that in as part of it now. Is this a Year of Luigi situation where all we're gonna get is like 2 maybe Shadow referenced games, and then maybe he shows up on the L train somewhere? Like,
I'm pretty
Year of Shadow are we expecting?
I'm pretty certain this is. They did the update thing where they were gonna put Shadow in Generations, and then they're doing like another thing where Shadow is going to be in a game, and they're like, hey, I just realized that there's going to be 2 shadow things this year. Let's make it a marketing thing.
Yeah.
Like,
So
I doubt that this was like
Definitely Year of Luigi style.
a special
yeah.
pre-planned whatever.
I really like my Luigi shirt that nobody gets to ever see. You always see my Luigi shirt in ChillPoint, but you've never seen that on the back shoulder printed in dark yellow is a Year of Luigi logo. It was the one that I bought during the Year of Luigi. So I'm very proud to have that version of the shirt.
Yeah. I feel like the fact that they didn't tie it in with like the eclipse seems
Yeah, that's a little odd.
It's too bad, isn't it, right? They could have done like a special thing where like Shadow's like profile rises up into the thing and it's like, this will be the most important video game of our times.
All right, let's talk about a couple of stories that didn't make it into the episode. For instance, Speedstorm.
Yeah, this is the Disney racing game.
Yeah, which has been around for a while, despite the fact that I actually hadn't really heard about it before.
It's like Mario Kart, but nobody plays it.
It's
that's
game
not
it's
true.
Gameloft.
Yeah.
Is the develop, but Disney's Speedstorm. So the next season, so they've had they did these seasons and for the first 6 seasons, they've had a paid season pass called the Golden Pass, and then there's free tracks. And then you can also use in-game currency to buy tracks.
Okay. All
Okay.
right. I'm keeping up.
All right.
The new one, their new season, is going to cost. So the premium pass, which was previously available through in-game currency,
Okay.
is now going to cost $10, or your region's equivalent, in real money. No in-game currency.
Oh.
And there will also be a $20 golden pass, which will allow you to skip the first 15 tiers of the, there's like a grindy thing.
Win 15 races? What?
I guess-
usually on a pass in, especially like a racing game, you accumulate kind of like points or something, and each tier is like, oh, you've done enough to move up to the next tier. So if they're doing this as like, oh, you skip the first 15 tiers of that thing, then you would probably get all of the rewards for that, and then move on.
Man, I feel like I would hate that. But anyway,
Yeah,
keep
this
talking.
isn't really your style of game.
Yeah. So what you're saying is that they've moved off of the in-game currency for certain parts of the experience to just being like, nah, y'all gotta pay us.
Yeah.
Because making a video game involves we have to pay people, so you have to pay us. And now people are upset that they have to pay money.
Usually the you can use in-game currency to get thing and not just pay real money for it is typically there's a way to get in-game currency without buying it, but it's harder, like it takes more time.
Well, and I guess the promise here was that you'd always be able, like, you assume, right? I acquire this game. Is this a free-to-play game, Paul?
Yeah.
So I acquire this free-to-play game, and if I earn enough in-game currency, rather than buy it, because I'm sure that was an option too, but if I earn enough in-game currency, I can unlock tracks, I can continue to play the game for free, I can play it and play it and play it. That's great. But if I also want to buy a season pass, then I can buy that season pass, and it's good for a year. Okay. And so that's the proposition that the game comes to you at, is that. And so now they're like, I am reworking the deal, that now if you want to do anything beyond what we have already laid out for you, we are taking away your options, and you can only pay money to get the additional stuff.
Yeah.
That does suck a lot. Like, that does
They're
hurt
like,
a lot.
Too many people are freeloading our game or whatever.
Yeah.
Additionally, they are also revealing a new single-player tournaments mode, which allows you to so you can race against computers and stuff. It's a single-player thing. You get 4 attempts a day, or $8 for unlimited tickets via the Vault Pass.
There's a lot of passes in this game.
So yeah, basically, as this article talks about, basically we're ending up like a game that you could previously sort of, grind out and you could play it and do stuff with in-game currency and not pay any money is now, if theoretically, if you want everything, is like $30 per season, to get the gold pass plus this vault pass.
Do we know how long a season is?
3 months or a year?
Well, it changes game per game. Like
exactly.
Some
seasons
games...
will be split into 2 parts of approximately 1 month. So 2 months, I guess, will be a 1 season.
Okay, yeah.
Okay. $30 every 2 months to kind of get everything.
Yeah.
That is expensive for a video game.
It's not what I would want to do with my money.
Yeah.
Sorry, I just quickly was looking in the comment section to see what people are talking about this, and my favorite comment is just somebody going, "You think these comments are mad? Go check out the Reddit page."
Oh, no. Yeah.
No, random commenter. I don't think I will.
Boy, that's quite the thing.
I can imagine.
I mean, like I get the impulse of, oh dear, we're making a game that enough people like that we need to be able to pay the people who make it. If that's what this is all about, is being able to be like, we need to make money to pay the people who are making it. If it's not just we need to make money on people who are addicted to this game and we need to extract maximum revenue out of them, it's hard to tell, right? But this definitely sniffs a lot like, let's maximize that revenue.
Yeah, which is also a thing that happens. It's just that's a lot.
I don't like it.
It's a lot.
You can buy a copy of Mario Kart for $90 Canadian.
Yeah. Let's add the Canadian.
Yeah, or cheaper if you get the vouchers.
Well, it's like
do that.
That's like 6 months worth of playing this game.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you might get sick of Mario Kart in 6 months too, right? And also though, if you have NSO, you get the booster pass, which means you get all those tracks that go with it.
I think you can just buy the booster pass if you really want.
Yeah, you can just buy the booster pass.
If you don't want to do the subscription thing.
Yeah,
but,
yeah.
You know.
All right. Well, that sucks for Speedstorm.
What else we got?
Destiny 2.
Oh no. What'd they do?
So Destiny 2, if you don't know, they're going into this big event called the Final Shape.
Okay.
Does that mean they're done?
I don't know.
They used the word final.
Yeah.
I feel like they may have
Probably
used that
not,
before.
Huh? Oh.
But
there's your first mistake.
They're adding a new subclass called the Prismatic subclass, which allows players to combine all the game's other subclasses into one. So you can Prismatic Guardians even gain the ability to use a superpowered grenade that combines darkness and light together.
And then you just get mud?
God, I want to make fun of that somehow, but there's a joke.
To be honest,
in that, yeah.
To be honest, I marked this story mostly hoping that Graham would have something to say on it because he's the one who actually knows about Destiny.
Absolutely,
that's true.
But also, I do love the names of things. Developers have finally announced a new enemy race called the Dread. The first since the Scorn were announced back in 2018.
It used to be like the Vex.
Yeah, tell me how you really feel.
The Dread apparently resemble tormentors and come in all shapes and sizes.
All right.
There are mid-level and flying enemies called the Grim and the Husk.
Dude just got out of Thesaurus and was like, you know what? Let me get
what are all the bad
Get
words?
my fucking emo Thesaurus out and just go through that.
I mean, I laugh, but I do find that kind of stuff funny.
Yeah.
I don't know if everyone has been to the Tyrell Museum to see the emo Thesaurus, but it is about 6 feet tall and they have teeth like this.
Well, it's actually 9 feet tall, but it's like this.
Yeah. Hanging its head. It's got this weird comb over.
So what this made me think of, again, I don't know that much about Destiny, I gotta say, but this in this prismatic subclass that combines all the other things, it made me think of Mortal Kombat and the way they have the way they got so much use out of Sub-Zero, Scorpion, there's
Reptile.
like there's like 10 different ninjas that are all just palette swaps of the
Yep.
same guy.
Yeah.
And then they made one that can switch between them.
Yeah.
I forget what his name is, but they made one that can switch between the different ones. It kind of feels like that.
Okay.
Anyway,
Yeah, I don't know a ton about Destiny 2. I hope it's still a fun game for those of you who are still playing it.
Yeah.
Because, sometimes your game lives long enough to stop being that.
I feel like everyone, my sort of impression just from, stuff I've heard from people in our sort of circle is that a lot of people are still playing Destiny 2, but they sort of slightly resent playing it. It's that thing of like, I like this game, but
Okay.
I wish I didn't.
No, I understand. I've done that. Hope it gets better.
Here's some. This is a fun thing. Somebody has by the name of Naga has modded their Switch OLED to add a bigger RAM module to it.
Okay.
And
so like a hardware mod was
yeah,
what we're talking
yeah.
here.
And also doing some overclocking stuff, and was able to get Tears of the Kingdom to run at 4K.
It's clearly a hacked Switch, obviously. Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Well,
literally hacked in part
Yeah.
to get stuff. Now as he said, so this is still it's still a Switch, but it's just with more RAM, and I think it's overclocked as well.
The screen internally can only spit out, I think, 1080p.
But he can do over the HDMI.
720.
It's 720 for the handheld and it's 1080 for docked.
Right, which means that over HDMI, that he's got to be able to.
But he's able
hacked
to
it tell it
somehow-
send a 4K signal.
Somehow to hack it to make it so that it sends 4K.
Okay.
Apparently, it is basically unplayable because the frame rate is so low.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
But it is 4K.
Yeah. Posted a video. I can obviously see in the article. That's very interesting. That I'm sure it looks like trash, but I'm sure also in a way though it's more about the hardware can render it once it's done these things, even if it's not possible. That you can tell the hardware render this stuff out at 4K. It's like, yes, I will do that, and it looks like this.
Let me.
Which is nice in a way.
Put it
It's
down there.
going to be hard for us to tell, spitting it out to you guys, but
So this is.
you can see everything kind of comes in slowly.
So like this mostly works,
Yeah.
but you can
Until
see.
you get to
there's
the
some
3D
lag.
part.
Yeah.
It's funny because I've kind of like I've had that same experience sometimes just playing it in normal mode on my OLED Switch too.
There's certain areas
25 frames a
especially
second all of a sudden.
that will kind of frame drop. If you you'll notice a lot of frame drops within the building mode section.
Yeah.
But to me, that's just kind of like, I don't know that I need everything to look a million times pretty at this point. It's
Yeah.
all in orange. You get trade-offs.
I think it is. Yeah, everything takes a long time to come in as it's building what it's doing there.
Yeah.
I think it's very like as a.
It's
as
a
an
cool
exercise,
idea, yeah.
That's really cool.
You
Because
can-
what I'd be
you're-
interested in seeing is how good do the textures actually render at 4K? Do they render in a way that actually makes it recognizable?
It's interesting. It's not actually like the frame rate isn't actually that low. Like it's not
No.
jerky. It's just slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like it looks like it's just sort of walking through molasses or whatever.
Oh, I learned a thing about I think Breath of
Anyway.
the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom is that there are two different versions of Link in the game at all times. There is the player model, and then there is the pouch player model.
sorry, the pouch player model.
Yeah, pouch player model. And if I remember this correctly, I'm going to try to get it right. Is that the link that you see on screen that you're walking around with? That's player.
Yes.
And
Okay.
when you pause, when you go into your pouch, the one you see on the side that you get to dress up and change the outfit and change all the bow and everything else, that's pouch player.
Oh, okay.
Because
sure, that makes sense.
The game has to be able to render the model, and it's like, well, I can't just render two different versions of player at the same time because I can't have two different versions of player existing. So I have a completely different version of Link that is rendered that's standing there that you can like add stuff to. I think you can rotate them around and stuff, and it's like, yeah, completely different version, which means that you can use that to break the game.
Well, yeah, I mean,
People
sure,
have
there are
done
all
that.
kinds of ways to break the game by this point.
Yeah.
I do like that they did a hardware hack though.
Yeah.
That's real cool. That's
Like,
risking a lot.
I do think software hacks are neat, but there's something about the tactile nature of a hardware hack that I really like. Just because then you're taking things apart and really rummaging around in it.
Yeah. I think that's really cool that they did that.
Although, the funny thing about this is I've seen people like in the comments or whatever being like, well, you know, because there's a lot of speculation about like would the theoretical Switch 2 be 4K or not?
Yeah.
Blah blah blah. And people are like, well, this is kind of shows that. I mean, Nintendo's going to have some pretty amazing engineering if they'll be able to run the Switch 2 at 4K, because clearly it's not up for this. And it's like
Not that amazing.
No.
the Switch 2 would presumably have different hardware in it than the regulars than the current Switch. That's not. I don't quite understand.
Yeah, and
anyway.
there's also been talk for a long time about whether or not it'll be a true 4K experience or if it'll be an upres with its DLSS.
Correct.
Yeah, the special AI upres stuff.
I'm like, okay.
Which is funny.
We'll probably find out in we're in April.
Yeah.
Maybe we find out in September.
Yeah. I think that's probably right.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm making guesses. If I knew real kinds of information like that, I would never tell you anything and I would never speculate it at all, because wow, would I not want anyone to come after me.
It just fits mentions in chat. Isn't there math for monitor size and distance for if 4K becomes meaningless? It's like, yeah, most people are probably watching 4K at a distance that is meaningless anyway. And I know for a fact that I am, because my eyes are sufficiently messed up that at the distance that I sit at, I can't tell the difference between 1080p and 4K anymore. I have to wait for my TV to fuck itself up in a particular way that I'm like, oh, look at that. Everything's gone awful.
I can tell the difference if I watch something 4K and then immediately turn it into 1080, but
Yeah.
it's not quite the same as like going from like 480 to 1080 for me or anything like that.
And I think frame rate is
720 even.
probably more noticeable.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
yeah. When your audio goes bad and when the frame rate goes bad, that's when it's the worst.
But, assuming something is going to be in a relatively similar form factor to the Switch, again, talking about screen sizes, the mobile version, I don't know if a handheld, iteration, like the handheld mode of the Switch needs to go above 720. Like maybe,
No,
I don't know if there
not.
would be that much benefit to it. Like there's no point in having 4K on a screen that big.
Yeah. I mean, like,
Well,
when we
you
talk
wouldn't
about
do 4K on that.
when we
but-
talk about phones, though, right, is that we talk about pixel pitch on a phone. And you go from, remember when we went from like the iPhone 3 to like the iPhone 4s or 5s or whatever when they went to Retina screens. And then as the pixel pitch has gotten more and more fine over time, that, yeah, there is that sense of, as the screen quality and the screen technologies have improved over time and how close they've gotten to the glass, that there is a real, there is a difference you can feel. I know that people who have also had if they're using the pro versions of Apple phones, that they're like, oh, it has that ProMotion thing. It has 120 hertz refresh. And it's like, it feels completely different navigating something in 120 hertz than doing it in 60 hertz. And yeah, that is going to be part of the thing. People like to play 144 hertz refresh games now, and they're like, they swear by those. I'm like, yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, I got you the Switch OLED,
Yes.
and compared to my screen,
Yeah.
I can tell a noticeable difference.
Yeah.
Like, there's something about the OLED screen where you're like, actually, this looks a lot nicer.
Yeah.
That's not
That's
resolution.
not a resolution.
No,
though.
It's just a
And
nicer
I'm
screen.
like, I don't know that they need to go above 720. It depends on how large they're going to make that screen overall.
Yeah. And even with that screen getting bigger, it didn't do anything to say to you that, oh, well, the dot pitch will be smaller. They'll be, because it's this larger to 7-inch screen, but if it's still 720p resolution, it's like, well, the dots get a little bit bigger because everything gets stretched out a little bit more. And it's like, okay, well, then that is different. If it is different, I don't know what the actual dot pitch of the screen is.
I just think that when you think about the way the game's going to look on a handheld,
yeah,
it's not just your resolution that's going to be your selling point. It's going to be, well, do you have an OLED screen? Do you have, because that messes with your colors in a different way.
yeah,
It's pixels per inch
yeah,
that are, because if we have this with the 3DS and like the 3DS XL.
yeah,
The games are designed for the 3DS screen and they stretched out for the 3DS XL, and there's a bit of a difference in the way that looks.
yeah, absolutely.
Hey, does everybody like Coachella? Woo!
Yeah.
Is that a dessert?
Yes.
Is it like baked Alaska, but like with cream cheese?
Thing is,
Yeah.
I know that she knows what Coachella is, but I love that the response, like, I would not have thought dessert. That's so good.
Well, if you want the full Coachella experience,
All right. Yeah.
but you don't want to,
Go to Coachella.
be near people.
Better.
Constantly. I
Which
never want to
is-
be near people.
yeah, which
Please
is
tell
under-
me your secrets.
Which is understandable. For the third year in a row, Epic Games is teaming up with Coachella to make a in-game Fortnite Coachella.
Ah.
Oh, okay.
But this time around, because since the last year, in the last year or so, Fortnite's really picked up on this sort of not other game modes, but like really the game just sort of being an engine for other stuff that people make. And so players will be able to, so they actually have like a separate thing for it now. Players will be able to explore Sahara Island, the virtual locale inspired by the real life venue of Coachella. And they will have a new music and minigame experiences that utilize music and visuals from Coachella 2024 artists, including Grimes and DJ Snake.
So is this isn't necessarily just Fortnite then? Is it also like the rhythm game and
Yeah, in fact,
some, like, I guess the Lego version?
Coachella will have a mini Fortnite festival takeover. So Fortnite Festival is the rhythm game thing. And so players will be able to form jam tracks from artists playing at Coachella
Interesting.
Oh.
in the
Okay.
Fortnite Festival thing. Like Doja Cat and Lil Uzi Vert.
I can promise
I know
you
if
it
he's
doesn't
French.
matter what new content they manage to get into the rhythm game section of this. I will never get Ian convinced that we should play a Fortnite game on Rhythm Cafe ever again.
Yeah.
And I think, I mean, just because he definitely does not want to, but also because I don't think he could handle changing his Tinker Tailor tagline to never in Fortnite except for that one time to except for those two times.
Yeah.
I don't think he'd like it.
Because I am a super cool person, I don't actually know who DJ Snake is. That 100% just sounds like in like, say, Banjo Kazooie or like ukulele. It's just like, hey kid, I'm DJ Snake, and it's actually like a snake that like scratches.
Yeah, which is funny because he has no arms, right?
Yeah, it'll be funny because he has no arms,
Yeah,
and
but
also because
somehow-
there would be no like actual music. There would be no actual like rap music
Oh, yeah,
there.
yeah,
It
yeah.
would just be
Yeah, but
Rap
somehow
music,
he
my
has these
droogs.
headphones that hang around his neck.
Mm-hmm.
That definitely
He
shouldn't be
doesn't
able to
have either,
hang.
yeah.
Yeah, he doesn't have those.
Just
yeah,
floating
yeah.
in space.
Yeah.
Anyway. So, I mean, to be honest, it sounds actually like the being able to actually like play songs from the Coachella and stuff actually sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a bunch of Coachella themed items, outfits, emotes, and different things like that. Boop, 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 boop. So,
Oh, them.
So, Embracer has gone through a bit of a struggle lately.
Yeah, poor bastards.
You don't say.
With them, selling off a lot of various companies and also just laying off a bunch of people.
A veritable fire sale of IP.
They have not surprisingly gotten a fair amount of criticism for that.
Gee,
Oh, wow.
Especially,
wow, how could that happen? How could
this
it be?
idea they sort of bought up a bunch of companies that were basically fine, or at least they appeared to be to us on the outside.
Yeah, nothing was ever told that they were struggling at all.
And then now they're, being sort of liquidated.
Yeah.
In some cases, being sold off again, and in some cases just being completely
Just dumped.
wood chippered.
Or portions of them kind of just shoved off.
And in some cases being purchased by the original CEO of the company.
Well,
Imagine doing that, selling off your
if you could figure out how to sell off your own company, and then rebuy it back
at a cheaper price.
Hopefully, nothing has happened. Essentially, you've just earned money by doing nothing, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
You've definitely put stress upon a bunch of people.
Absolutely.
Their livelihoods, but
and
you
I
made
wouldn't,
a bunch of money.
and
so
I
I'm
wouldn't
sure
trust that
that's
CEO as far as I could throw them because it'd be like, no, if it's like, well, I rebought you because clearly they were treating you like shit. It's like you shouldn't have sold us in the first place. I hope you're enjoying your $45 million profit or whatever. I'm making assumptions as what's happened there, but yeah.
So
Somebody got their fifis hurt. That's what this whole story is about.
Well, why we're talking about this in particular is the two of the biggest assets, I guess, that Embracer that weren't dumpstered, but were separated. That Embracer sold off was Gearbox and Saber Interactive. Gearbox went to somebody. Forget who bought Gearbox.
Yeah.
And Saber Interactive is the one that the CEO basically just bought it back.
Yeah.
And in a so this is the CEO of Saber had an interview with IGN talking about basically what life was like under Embracer.
Oh no!
In the Embrace. Take Two, right? Take Two by Gearbox.
No, when you say things like the Embrace, that's a vampire thing.
Man, that would be like the most ironic name for like a vampire organization.
The Embracer Group.
Embracer Media.
Yep.
And once you figure out that it's like, what? That's what you called you guys? Seriously? Yeah.
Yeah, it's normal.
Anyway, so Karch, so he just bought his company back from Embracer, but he had very positive things to say about Embracer.
Oh.
They paid me a lot of money, and I'm very happy with all of that money.
Presumably
Did he
he's
blink
doing
really
okay
weirdly?
considering he bought his company back.
Yeah.
Karch suggested the conglomerate was akin to a small town and kind of homegrown organization more than a sprawling empire. It's not a company that wants to spit out 1,000 Lord of the Rings games, regardless of whether or not those Lord of the Rings games are going to hurt the license.
Gollum.
It's a dig. Who did Gollum?
I don't remember. I just remember Gollum.
It's kind of a
being
dig
out
on like
and
Amazon
did not
Studios
do
too,
well.
I guess.
Yeah.
It's not the way Embracer operates. It's not the way Lars operates. He's talking about Lars
Wingforce.
Yes,
Yeah.
who's the CEO of Embracer.
Yeah.
he loves IP. He loves games. He loves games developers. He's got a start in comics, God knows how long ago, and he's a good human being and he cares about people. But when the market shifted, the market lost patience. And when the market lost patience, hard decisions had to be made because there was no way to sustain everything that was going on, and that's why the layoffs occurred.
The people he cared about were shareholders. He cares about people, the people who are the shareholders.
Not his fault. The market shifted. It's the consumer's fault.
Clearly.
I love this too. I think you can blame Lars for maybe being a little bit naive that this gravy train was just going to continue. But I think you could admire them for making tough decisions and doing what they can to preserve much of what they built in a fair and equitable way.
This poor shrinking ingenue, this delicate flower.
His only crime was caring too much.
Too much.
Oh no.
He wanted to hug too many people. So
we have to be what about their decisions? We have to be. It was.
Admire them for
Admire
making
them?
tough
We have
decisions.
to admire them for taking on clearly too many things and then being like, oh shit, and then getting rid of them.
Yeah.
I don't think I have to admire people like that.
Yeah. So Saber Interactive CEO Matthew Karch would like you to know that,
Having left Embracer.
having left Embracer, that we're all treating Embracer Group CEO Lars Wingfors too tough, too terribly, and that Matthew thinks we need to tell the world that I said they need to give this guy a break. So I don't know. He must have made some good fucking money off of Lars because he's basically inviting everyone to don't go harass Embracer Group. Harass me instead. That's,
You know what?
It's
I'll
like,
tell you what.
Dude, that's literally what's going to happen to you.
I tell you what, you want a break? Go buy a Kit Kat. Because that's the only break I'm giving you.
The CEOs covering for each other in this kind of thing just it absolutely breaks my heart.
And he's saying like he's saying that like they've gotten this bad reputation for laying off all these people, but he's like, in comparison to the rest of the industry,
Oh, no, we're still mad at
As
the
a
rest of the industry, too.
as a percentage, they're
It
not
doesn't make
laying
it
off
less
any more
worse.
people than anybody else.
Yeah.
It's just because they own most of the things.
Doesn't
So
matter.
that's a
Still
relatively
mad.
large group of people.
Yeah.
It's just like, I think some people saw these acquisitions and were annoyed by Embracer when they were acquiring. I remember a lot of negative comments about them gobbling everything up. So now they're a little bit gleeful, which I don't think is entirely equitable.
And gleeful's not the word I use for it.
See, the thing is, like, because I'm kind of like, I would feel better if I knew that Embracer was actually, we've had to suffer terribly because of this and we are in a bad strait or like whatever. Be like, okay, good, you learned your goddamn lesson. You learned that you can't just go around doing this stuff. You got hurt as a result of things. It would be, for example, if somebody came along, bought up Embracer Group for whatever reason, and then was like, we're gonna make this right, and we're gonna split up, we're gonna spin off studios back to where they were before, and do that kind of thing, and we're gonna fire the dude as the CEO and toss him out in his ass and like all that kind of stuff. I'd be like, then I'd be feeling gleeful. That's like, whoever made these decisions in your company clearly fucked up. You did the wrong thing, and now an adult has to come in and actually make things operate in a healthy way.
I don't remember.
I would feel gleeful then.
I don't remember anyone watching Embracer buy things and then be like, oh, I don't like that. So much as that seemed, we're a little worried about that.
Yeah, that's going to end badly.
Because you're buying an awful lot of things and we're not, that doesn't, I mean, maybe that's a good thing, but we also don't feel great about monopolies and certain things as well. So who knows? And then do you remember? You remember Embracer Group was supposed to get like a $2 billion investment.
Yes.
That mysteriously did not happen the next day, even though they were pretty sure it was going to happen.
I remember this.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's connected to them laying off all these people. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's, well, yeah, I mean, that's sort of, but it's also, yeah, it's like taking, because if you look at the list of all the companies that Embracer currently owns, obviously it's a big chunk, and there's some names in there that are very well loved especially sort of indie studios and stuff.
Yeah.
And and it's that, like, you can imagine, and who knows, we don't know what the internals of in the market is, but you can imagine that a lot of these studios could have gone along very happily doing their thing.
Yeah.
But then, but it's like, if you're making some really cool, fun indie game that, that you would consider to be a success if you sold, 10,000 copies of.
Yeah, absolutely.
Embracer probably isn't going to be, very interested, or is not going to be treating your little company with a lot of respect when they, have a $2 billion project that they're trying to figure out.
You're a rounding error on the bottom line.
Yeah, and so instead of sort of going along at a happy place and continuing and making stuff, you suddenly are like, well, you're not making any money, fired.
Yeah.
So hopefully, the end result is hopefully they can be, stuff can be reconstituted.
Some of the smaller studios have been becoming their own entities, right? Like, didn't Toys for Bob essentially become its own thing and
extract themselves?
And whatnot. Now, I mean, not everyone's going to get that chance or be able to, but it's kind of nice to see not everything is just dying.
Like, Loading Ready Run has talked before about, like, we're more than happy to sell out. If somebody came along and was kind of like, I got $10 million and I want to buy up the company, it's kind of like, that would be an offer we seriously listen to, obviously.
Sure.
But there is that fear, too, of, like, who's coming along to say they want to buy the company, who's coming along to say, but I want to be the guy in charge and I want to make some hard decisions and I want to do all these kind of things. And you're like, I don't know how that feels overall, right? Like that. And I don't own any part of this company. I'm just the guy who works here as a business manager, right? But
I think Commodore Hustle Beach maybe owns, like, the property that we're in.
Yeah. But there is that sense of, like, you do have to ask yourself the question, anybody who is in that position, you're like, am I willing to do this because it means financial security or a new way forward? And I think everybody who ends up in this position too, if they were like a small studio who gets bought up by like a big group, you're kind of like, maybe this represents a change in how I can do my work and how I can do all these things. You're hoping for that.
Yeah, and
you don't expect to get
certainly be sympathetic that.
Yeah.
You don't expect that this is all going to come with me getting effed over.
I do think we used to say that more often in like years ago too, when it seemed really great, like, Rooster Teeth and all these things that are now having a Fallout kind of section that I'm sure if we got that kind of offer now would be more like, are we sure we want to do that?
Real askance at that kind of thing.
Maybe we could just convince them to give us money. That kind of thing. It's just the dynamic of that idea has changed a lot.
Yeah.
Anyway, finally, let's talk about something more upbeat.
Okay, I would like that, yes.
Killer robots.
Right.
Yeah, okay, I mean, sure.
It's like a Roomba with a knife strapped to it?
It could be.
Okay. I mean, really, you should
what I love,
several knives to the Roomba. It's got more angles to go with.
So this is a story about Helldivers 2. And what I love about this story is, so Helldivers 2 has just gone through, they've been doing lots of updates and stuff. And one of the big things, or one of the really neat things about it is, while you're doing these, you're doing all these missions, and it's sort of this, you do these like co-op missions and stuff, and go through. There is sort of a larger campaign that's happening that theoretically the players have an impact on.
Right.
So you can take over. Like if enough people are successful doing missions on a particular planet,
you're gaining ground.
You're gaining ground. You're doing stuff.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
This sort of galactic war thing, so the big event that they just did, or they did on April 8th, was Operation Swift Disassembly. Now there's two enemy factions in Helldivers 2.
Right.
There's the automatons and the bugs. I forget what they're called. Whatever.
Yeah.
Bugs and robots.
Bugs and robots.
Okay.
And so players have defeated the entire automaton robot faction in Helldivers 2,
Already.
making Operation Swift Disassembly a success.
All right.
Oh, well, good for them.
So Operation Swift Disassembly started last week. Did a bunch of missions and doing a bunch of stuff, and they went to annihilate the entire automaton legion.
All right.
And they were successful, and the studio congratulated everybody. And the bots are eradicated, the bugs are contained, and the galaxy is safe once more.
Okay, when's the shoe drop?
So that story was on April
1st?
8th.
Okay.
April 8th. No, not April 1st.
I just think it'd be
That
really
was on-
funny. Don't worry, everybody. We did it.
That was on-
April Fool's Day.
That was on April 8th.
Okay.
And what I love, little piece of fun trivia if you don't know about this, on almost any news website, often news articles will change their headlines over the course of time.
Right.
Either something gets updated or they made a mistake or whatever.
They decide to A/B test. Yeah.
But for search SEO reasons and link reasons, they can't change the
URL.
permalink, the
Yeah.
URL to that.
Oh, right. Yeah.
thing.
So it has the
and
original
so,
title.
and so
the
often the
link.
original title will be in the URL. The original title for this article is "Players have defeated an entire enemy faction in Helldivers 2."
Right.
The current title for this article is update yesterday, or wait, no, what was the actual update? Oh no, the automatons are back.
Yeah.
Updated April 9th, by the way, the next day.
That's funny.
Yesterday, players celebrated the eradication of the automaton legion in Helldivers 2. Somehow, the automatons returned. Yeah, for some inexplicable reason, the game developers didn't throw away half of their content.
Yeah. How about that?
I mean, okay. From
As suspected, I mean, everyone kind of knew this was going to happen.
From a game perspective, yes, sure. But from a we're really in this universe perspective, when they got rid of all the robots, did they also shut down all the equipment that makes the robots? Maybe they didn't think all of their plans through.
Yeah. A massive fleet has now begun an assault on Cyberstan. Apparently the name.
Cyberstan?
And the surrounding planets. Helldivers, hold back this unprovoked invasion. The fight continues. I do like the sort of in-game marketing thing.
Is it unprovoked?
Well, that one.
If you've eradicated everybody and then it turns out you didn't?
I mean, that's the we've seen this before. The Helldivers Twitter account is sort of in whatever, in kayfabe. Like the thing where there was new flying enemies, but they didn't talk about them in the update, and people were like, "Hey, what's with the flying enemies?" And the Twitter account was like, "There are no flying bugs.
enemies?
That's
Yeah,
ridiculous."
Yeah.
Yeah, I've heard a couple of people that I listen to who've played the game really enjoy the way the like social media stuff interacts with the game and like the devs and stuff. Doing kind of this almost like experience of like you had to be there.
Cyberstan is the old cyborg homeworld for Helldivers 1. Right.
Okay.
Oh, neat.
I always forget that it's Super Earth apparently.
Yeah.
Which I don't know why it's Super Earth.
Is Super Earth like the original Earth, but we've renamed it, or is it we've taken another planet and we had to come up with a name and we were like, no, this is like better Earth.
It's like two Earths put together. I don't know. No, it's
That
just a renamed normal Earth.
It's renamed?
Great.
Okay. I'm just curious from like we rename things all the time.
It's true.
That's the thing that happens. But also sometimes you get New York because there's an old one.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway, so lots of silly things happening. Helldivers 2 apparently continues to be super fun. I've seen lots of stuff. People talking about using, and I believe there might be some upcoming streams scheduled for it.
It would not surprise me.
Maybe? I don't know offhand.
We've already had Anne. Anyway, if there's more, you will see them show up in the up next. But
anyway, thanks everybody for joining us on ChillPoint. If you haven't seen the episode of Checkpoint that we were talking about already, you should very much do so. It is silly.
Yeah, you should also check it out at the end if you're a YouTube member, because we've started doing YouTube membership call-outs as a thing. We've turned on YouTube memberships on all the channels as a place where you can give us money if that is what you wish to do. And for the video games channel, we've added the shout-outs to that at the end of the Checkpoint video. That's where those are going to go.
So if you want to be in the shout-outs for next week's Checkpoint video, that's how you do that.
Yeah. Otherwise, other ways to support the channel include the Patreon at patreon.com/loadingreadyrun and the store at store.loadingreadyrun.com, where you can buy all sorts of merchandise. And there will be new merchandise eventually.
Yep.
Feels good to say that.
Eventually.
I feel like that is true at any given point.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But, you could get like a hoodie or a playmat or something.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some other stuff on the store right now while you wait.
Working on restocks.
Oh, good to know.
Yeah.
So thanks everybody for joining us, and we will talk to all y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.